Hey explorers, have you ever thought about what mysteries and artifacts are hidden under our feet? It's like finding riches in an old chest. Archaeology has some exciting stories to tell. It's like the world is playing hide and seek with us. Join us on an exciting journey to learn about 10 unique archaeological finds that have both puzzled and fascinated experts. We will visit Viking sorceresses, golden treasures, prehistoric battles, and more. Have you ever thought about where the idea of magic wands came from? It's not Diagon Alley, it's real history, which is even more interesting. We're going to go back in time to old Scandinavia, the land of myths, runes, and yes, magic wands. Get on a longboat and sail back in time to a time when myths and tales came to life. In this past time, you would meet the Volvas, who were the Vikings' mysterious wise women. Like Professor Dumbledore or Professor McGonagall, they were respected people who were thought to have magical skills. Picture them not in Hogwarts robes, but in formal clothes and with a magic staff in their hands. What makes these real-life elder wands different is what they are made of. Don't bother with phoenix feathers or dragon cords. These were made for the rough Norse world. Iron and wood, which come from natural sources, were used to make these tools. You can think of them as the first elder wands. They don't have any unforgivable curses, just the strong magic of the elements. What was the most shocking part? These things have been found in Viking graves, so they're not just stories. Imagine an archaeological dig that finds a wand next to the bones of a Viking fighter. It would be like getting a behind-the-scenes look at a Harry Potter set, but the objects are much older. It's like running into Dumbledore's wand while looking for something else in an antique shop. The wizarding world is starting to look like a documentary. Let's go back to a time before your grandmother's bedtime stories were even thought of. You have arrived in Thrace, a land full of history and wealth, where even gold could tell stories. Thrace is often mistaken for Bulgaria today, but don't let that fool you. This country has been around since the beginning of time and is known for its gold craftsmanship, which is so classic that even the most modern artist would be green with envy. These aren't just pieces of metal. They're works of art so intricately designed that you'd think they were made by elves in a fairy epic. The really amazing thing is that these goblets and jugs are so finely detailed that it looks like magical beings from a Tolkien book made them. It looks like fairies were dancing on the edges and whispering secrets into the metal. Think of the Harry Potter goblet of fire, but make it 100 times bigger and more beautiful. These gold pieces aren't just pretty things to look at. They tell stories about the past. Their complicated designs make me think that they were used at religious events or as valuable possessions by wealthy kings. As you look at them, it's as if they're telling you stories about old celebrations, hidden ceremonies, and leaders who were dressed in greatness. Think about this. You're taking a walk in Germany's beautiful Talenza region when all of a sudden you hit something sticking out of the ground. That's not a rock that got lost, that's a human bone. But wait, things get even stranger. This is where the story goes from being a simple walk to an episode of CSI, Ancient Europe. There's more to this than meets the eye. It's a clue that goes to Europe's oldest known battlefield. In other words, these are fighters who fought with swords and shields long before your history books were written. The next part is so good that even the best mystery writers would want to write it. The DNA tests on these ancient fighters show something amazing. Getting puzzle pieces from different sets is like that. These troops might have come from as far away as the Mediterranean or the Balkans. What were these fighters from the Mediterranean and the Balkans doing on a battlefield in Germany a very long time ago? Archaeologists are still not sure how to solve this puzzle. Like soldiers from different video games, they showed up in the same level out of the blue, and no one knows why or how. For example, let's say you stay up all night reading ancient books for your college thesis. It sounds boring, doesn't it? But what if you find something so amazing that it changes history itself, not just your grade? This is exactly what happened to a student from Italy who was studying archaeology. At a church in Venice, she came across a sword that was simply marked as a few hundred years old while doing research for her thesis. But something inside her told her not to. She had a feeling that this wasn't just another piece of art. It was an old treasure with a story that went back to the Bronze Age. More research and tests in the lab proved her crazy idea. She found a sword that is about 5,000 years old. Think about how that object got here. It comes from your grandpa's grandpa's grandpa's. Well, you get the idea. Not only is this an old sword, it's the oldest sword ever found. Imagine that you are in the middle of the Ottoman Empire in the 1600s. Suleiman, the Magnificent, is in charge of this time of progress and grandeur. You would expect a king called the Magnificent to have a sword that matched. It's not just any weapon. It's a work of art that's as much about beauty as it is about war. The sword was made with such skill that even master goldsmiths, like Suleiman, who learned how to do it, would be impressed. The blade has lines from the Quran etched into it in very detailed calligraphy, which makes it a divine tool in more than one way. The gold then comes, oh, the gold! This sword is more than just a sword. It's a golden work of art. Imagine a sword that looks more like it belongs in a museum than in a fight, because it is so fancy and intricately designed. The gold accents aren't just for looks. They show how the Ottoman Empire was both powerful and artistic at its height. You are completely right in thinking that this sword should be in a museum. This amazing work of art is currently on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and people who come there can't help but be amazed by how brilliant it is. That's right, this isn't just any blade. It's a reminder of a master and a time that were truly magnificent. Imagine finding something that is so old that it was made before the pyramids. That's what experts at the University of Jerusalem did when they found a copper crown that was made between 3,300 and 4,000 before Christ. The catch is that it's not the kind of crown a king or queen would wear. Experts say that this crown wasn't for royalty and was probably a piece of art from a mystery fire cult. Instead of jewels and gold, this crown has what look like deer horns and bird shapes on it, which makes it even more mysterious. It's like the crown is whispering old ritual secrets and wants someone to figure them out. The artistry is also ahead of its time. The pattern is so complex that it's hard to believe it was made more than 5,000 years ago. When you think about it, what else do we not know about the great skills our ancestors had? It's not just a crown. It's a puzzle wrapped in metal, an object that looks like a question mark. What was this group of fire lovers? Why did they make a hat with so many parts? The reasons are still as hard to find as the people who used to wear them. Let's say you are a medical student who can move through time and ends up in ancient Egypt. You might think that doctors would be speaking spells or making magical potions. Get ready for a story twist. The Edwin Smith Papyrus shows that Egyptian medicine was not just a bunch of nonsense. This papyrus, which the American Egyptologist Edwin Smith purchased in 1862, is comparable to Gray's Anatomy for ancient Egypt, but without the romance. It describes 48 different types of accidents, fractures and wounds, along with how to treat them and what the diagnosis is. Keep your clothes on, because it dates back to about 1550 BC. The Edwin Smith Papyrus is not about magic spells or incantations. It is about real medical practices. It's like discovering an old WebMD with treatments that might really work. The techniques mentioned have been proven to work again by tests done in modern medical schools. What's amazing is that the advanced information on this papyrus wasn't surpassed for hundreds of years. They were like doctors from ancient Egypt who had a DeLorean and went to the future for a short time to look at medical books. The million-dollar question is still, who wrote down this valuable information? The author has not been found, but one thing is certain. They had a medical mind that was hundreds of years ahead of its time. What did we learn then? There are many mysteries in the world that have yet to be solved. Each one is more interesting than the last. Which of these finds most interesting to you? Leave a comment below to tell other explorers about this exciting trip. Are you ready for more amazing discoveries? If you subscribe now and click that bell, you'll be the first to know about our next trip into the unknown. But until then, keep looking around. Explorers, have a great trip.